country to kindergartens. And the second national policy that I would like to highlight here is the state program on poverty reduction and sustainable development, covering years 2008-2016. So it was a very comprehensive development concept that covered pretty much each sector and each areas of national development. And preschool education was part of it. So basically, the point that I would like to highlight about this program is that when in 2007 this program was adopted, the set goal was to double the share of children from the age of 3 to up to 6 by the end of the program in 2015. But if you look at some statistics, in fact, the number of children decreased from 17.2% when the program was adopted up to 16% in 2013. So the blue line here shows the national average of the number of children enrolled in preschool education, and the red line, as you see, represents the same indicator for urban areas, and the light green stands for rural areas. So the key points that I would like to draw your attention here is that, as we can observe, there's a huge gap in terms of access to early childhood education when it comes to urban and rural locations. And this is just one indicator or just one factor that influences the access or determines which child, for example, is going to have access to early childhood education and which child will not. And as we see, starting from 2006, although despite of all the adopted state programs and initiatives with a very important and significant goals ahead, we see decrease in the number of children enrolled in preschool education. And but looking forward, what are the set goals? So this was a quick overview to the past, but what are the set goals in front of early childhood education in Azerbaijan? So first, I would like again to draw your attention to the development concept of Azerbaijan 2020, which explicitly states to increase the level of children's involvement in preschool education to European standards. And by EU standards, this indicator is currently 91.1%. So basically, across the EU countries, 91% of children from the age 3 to 6 are have access to early childhood education. And this political will, in terms of making access to early childhood education as a national priority, educational priority, was of course highlighted in the recent state strategy on education development, which set another explicit goal of reaching 90% enrollment of early childhood education in the country. So moving from, it's already been evident and obvious that yes, this is a set strategic goal for us. But what are the ways to achieving this 90%? So if you look at this following chart, and the data, I would like to note that the data we have used for this chart refers back to 2012 data from the Statistics Committee. So the brown part of our pie are the share of the children who are currently who are not having any access to early childhood education in Azerbaijan, and the 16% of children who do have, according to 2012 statistics, to early childhood education. Out of that provision, out of that supply, 40.8%, a big majority, is provided by state public kindergartens. So as we see, and only 1.2% share goes to private kindergartens. So as we see, the current public kindergartens are able to cover only a very small percentage of the children from years 3 to 6. And how about the rest 84%? And this is where I would like to bring up community-based preschool models, which are, as of now, there are 3 models that we are going to look at. The first one is implemented by UNICEF office in Azerbaijan, which is Summer School Readiness Program conducted for 10 weeks during summer to the children at the age of 5, sometimes 6, just before they enter the primary school. The second community-based model is in partnership United Aid for Azerbaijan and Center for Innovations in Education, which is held in several regions and centers and cities in Azerbaijan by self-help groups, community-based self-help groups, and currently, and finally, municipality-based school readiness program, which is currently being operating in Dalajer village of Shamkir region by the Center for Innovations in Education. So in this table, I capture, so there were different, of course, there are different ways that we could approach our analysis. But for this specific research, the driver of our analysis is the needs. So I would like to go back. This 84% of children, they represent a variety of needs. A variety of needs of children and the families and the parents. So in this needs-based analysis, we looked at several factors such as location. Is the family located in an urban area, in a city, or is the family located in far remote village in Azerbaijan? So that is already a factor that is going to determine the access of the children. Socioeconomic status of a family. Does the child come from a family where parents are able to afford paying certain amount of fee for the service, or they are not? Employment status of parents. So, for example, as we know, public and private kindergartens, they provide full service, full day service, which includes nutrition, education, and health needs of children. Education level of parents, of course, different educational background of parents is going to set different kind of perception and at the same time expectation from early childhood education. So that is also a factor that is going to determine access of a child to early childhood education. Types of services. So, for example, in community-based models, the provided services target not only children, but also their parents, since early childhood being a very sensitive and crucial age of the child's development and brain development. So there's a whole literature studies done in neuroscience research into that. So parenting is another important factor which is integrated in some of the community-based models. And finally, special needs. So as we know, state kindergartens, they are not inclusive. However, the self-help groups, for example, operating currently in Siazan, Sumgayit, and several other regions, include our age and health condition. Disability includes their children at the age of 2 or sometimes 3, and with several disabilities are able to benefit from the provided services. And how about so these community-based models are still new. It's new in terms of by the terms of early childhood education terms. So usually when we are trying to speak about the influence of early childhood education on the further stages of life, it's usually a pretty long timeline that we need, maybe starting from 5, 10 or more years. But from the very preliminary results, We observed that, for example, in the municipality-based community school readiness model is approved and by the community. So, for example, here we have a quote from teacher and the teacher from the primary school as well. And in terms of quantitatively, again, these are very preliminary results, and there are several limitations that I would be happy to later bring clarifications about. But the initial results show that for the following subjects that are taught in primary schools, children who attended the municipality-based school readiness program show statistically significant difference between those who either came from public kindergartens or who received no early childhood education at all. And in summary, so far, we do believe that we need public-private partnership in preschool service provision, because by only one or two models of preschool provision, we will not be able to cover so many diverse needs of the children who are lacking early childhood education model. So it would be matching different services to different needs provided by the models. And finally, the mentioned community-based models represent real-life successful experience in preschool provision. So, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I'll just continue in English, considering that we started in English. I'm just curious, I'm sure you've stumbled upon private TPP and TPIs that Labour government introduced in the UK in 2002. This is one of the first models, basically, of TPI. And they had serious trouble with accountability, which kind of led to the TPIs being abandoned for a more community-based approach, which you are advocating today. Do you think those controls and those measures for accountability and evaluation will be established, particularly in the regions? And to add to that, don't you think that it's a bit of an ad hoc approach to education, considering that it'll be very hard to build up those interest groups, those community groups, and particularly to attract the investors to work in the regions based on any motivation that you will be providing them or any coverage that you will be providing them? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very interesting question. Yes, it's just because of the time limitation, I could not go too much into details, and in the full paper, I would be happy to share with you. We discuss about the approach public-private partnership as part of new public management. I think that's where the idea came from. So initially, yes, public-private partnership was more of a way to deliver mostly infrastructure or development, and it's only recently that this approach has been sort of being integrated in providing social services such as education, medicine, and different. And in fact, in one of the policies, national policies, very crucial that affected, I believe that would speak more to your question, the privatization program which included kindergartens as well, that was adopted in 2007. So that was, again, let me refer back to the chart. That was the time when we see a steep decrease in the number of, steep decrease in the physical access to early childhood education. And according to our analysis, one of the major reasons for this decrease was the lack of state accountability and oversight during that privatization program. So our vision of providing community-based preschool models would be that oversight and accountability on overarching level would still be based on government sector. So it would either be Ministry of Education or the local education offices. But we do find it important that in terms of political will and accountability, which I think would be integral part of political will, would still the state or government needs to be there in terms of oversight. And to the second part, how we would attract investors in work, for example, a very remote village of, let's say, Gedebe, where currently one of the community preschool models is operating. So each of these community-based models are being supported by international organizations, and in case of Center for Innovations, by a private donor, which is a British Petroleum Office here in Azerbaijan. And the reason, so there are different ways that these community-based models can be designed. So, for example, in municipality-based in Darücar region, the parents are paying a very small amount, symbolic fee for as a user fee, let's say. And this, it was very interesting just to talk to those parents. That creates a sense of ownership over this community-based model. So I think the sense of ownership is the key, or one of the keys to attracting or motivating, or let's say to avoid that ad hoc approach. So sense of integrating that sense of ownership. And the second point is that the reason that we are not, I think, the biggest advocate for only private kindergarten provision of preschool services is that international, for example, experience, if you refer back to international global literature, is that private kindergartens would not be willing to provide services or open a new kindergarten in rural areas, for example, where the density of population is very low. So obviously, I agree with you that private investors would not go to, again, remote villages too. So this is where we need the partnership. We need the intersectoral partnership to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very interesting topic. It is very crucial. So my question is about, we know that most of the parents prefer to send their children to intellectual development centers rather than to kindergarten. And do you think that such kind of centers can replace the preschool education in some instances? Or if we think about if these children go there for 2 hours, 3 times per week, or 5 times per week, can they get enough education and knowledge and then go to the school? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sevinç, for your question. So, I think it's a very big, broad question, because when we think about early childhood education, and especially the quality of early childhood education, this in itself is a very fluid term. So I think, first of all, it depends on parents, of course, because usually it's the parents, decision makers, what kind of preschool service the child is going to receive. It's the parents' perception and image of an expectation of early childhood education. And so regarding the specific case that you mentioned about intellectual development centers, and again, there are different models or services that are provided in early childhood education. So it's either school readiness program or a program that has the 4 categories of early childhood development, which includes emotional, that okay, when a child goes to the very first primary grade, he or she is able to interact with their teachers. Would not be, for example, crying after his or her mother. So emotional development, social skills, communication skills. So, and on the other hand, there are also sometimes resentment of primary grade teachers that when children come already for the first grade, for example, curriculum, then it's over readiness of the children for the first primary grade. So, in my understanding, whatever promotes expands knowledge is always important if it is no matter if it's intellectual or social or emotional. But it still is, even in the discussion, in the scholar discussion, it's still an open question. And I think it's again the needs of individual children that should drive what kind of services, preschool services they receive.
Maybe one last question, some burning question? No? Okay.
Thank you. All your research has been done in depth, and I think that one more maybe slide should be added. Just it's my suggestion. You spoke about the needs of social needs. That was very interesting, especially the table that was done. Social needs, yes. But what about the professionals that, for example, are going to teach the children, so-called instructors, supervisors? Are we ready to face the needs of kids, contemporary kids, so technologically just advanced kids? And do we have so-called institutions who which prepare such kind of instructors? I think it should be it's high time to start this program, to reveal this program.
Thank you very much for your comment. I will try to be as precise as possible. Yes, lack of professionals, especially in rural areas, is a big issue. And just again referring back to the existing experience, for example, the community-based self-help groups, what the program does is that they train the parents, as we call them, paraprofessionals. They have child-centered, innovative early childhood development step-by-step program. They are trained, and this is to sort of buffer that lack of professionals. But yes, it is a topic of a separate presentation. I agree.
Thank you, Anu. I know there are some more questions, but unfortunately we are already behind the schedule for 20 minutes at least, and there will be some more announcements before we break for coffee. So I want to thank all the presenters. So let's give them a huge applause again. I also want to thank all the people who asked questions, so that made it quite interesting. So I just want to sum up within 1 minute. So after that, I will give the floor to Mr. Value, so we can make some announcements before we break for coffee. So I think we had a quite productive morning session. So we had very interesting 3 presentations. So we had quite diverse backgrounds. So we had people from the private sector, we had people from NGOs, and we had people from the central bank presenting quite different interesting presentations. I'm sure AA will be posting all those presentations on their website, so you can refer to those presentations. Possibly some papers will also be published on those on that page, and you can also refer to those papers if you want to get more in-depth information. So we have coffee break in a few minutes, but before we go for coffee break, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Value. He will make some important announcements, please.
So thank you very much for the role of moderating, which was very greatly managed, and I would like to ask for the applause for Turgut Mustafa. I would like to mention a couple of notes before we go for the break. First, we will have the awarding ceremony, which will be at the end of the second session. And awarding ceremony is dedicated to support once again the researchers that spend their time and efforts to make such NOx presentations available for all of you. And I would like you to take part on that as well. We have a a group of experts in this room. Some of you know them, some of you don't know. They will be letting us know which presentation was best. I will select only 3 best presentations to award at the end with a very symbolic, I would say, contribution from us as organizers to the presenters. So please approach at the end of the second session, we'll hand out small papers for the audience and we'll consider the experts' opinions as well. So as a result of the community, as you are the participants, and the opinions of the experts will come up with the 3 numbers, and then we'll present the award. So once, maybe I was a little bit excited in the opening ceremony, and it was maybe forgotten. I might apologize. I think it was mentioned very in a very extensive form by Samad Malim. We owe a huge, I would say, a huge applaud and recognition for the American Center that was providing all the process, the support, as well as technical assistance during the forum. So I would like to ask you kindly to make an applause for the American staff. And please take your time, 15 minutes for the break, and come back on time.